Karag, an adolescent shapeshifter, has a dream about a clique of Pumas. They're his family from when he was much younger, and he recalls being so intrigued by humans that he separated from his family just to get a closer look at them. The moment Karag jumps in this dream, he falls from his bed in reality, jolting him awake. Karag, now known as Jay, heads downstairs and joins his adoptive parents, Donald and Anna Ralston, his brother Marlon, and his newly vegan younger sister Melody. The news pops up just then, and apparently animals have been revolting worldwide, crashing jets and turning up ships. Later on, the entire family steps out to say goodbye to Jay, given that he's about to start a new school. His mom's supposed to drive him there alone, but a stubborn Melody throws a tantrum until they let her tag along. On the trip, Jay notices that a couple of crows keep following them, but brushes this aside when he hears his mom and sister doing a sing-along. Soon, they cross the border into Jackson, Wyoming, and consequently find a motel to spend the night. There, his mom talks about Clearwater High School, but Jay thinks they just want to get rid of him because he's not their biological kid. Anna sits beside him, assuring him that she won't abandon him if he doesn't like the school. Much later that night, Jay hears strange noises, and a little peek out his window reveals a pack of wolves running into Black Mountain Mining opposite the motel. Seconds later, one of its buildings suffers a blackout, but Jay could care less. He simply returns to bed and spends the whole night awake. By daybreak, his mom drives them all the way to Clearwater High School, and it's nothing short of breathtaking. As they pull into the compound, Jay observes as Shadow and Wing, the two crows that have been following them, drop behind a big enough signpost and shapeshift into humans. Lissa Clearwater shows up to thank them and goes straight to talking to Anna.
Und du bist also Jay.
All four of them then take the meeting to Lissa's office, where Anna opens up about working in child welfare. Apparently, she found Jay in police custody, clothes torn apart, and with no memory of who he was. She convinced her family to take him in after that, but it's been difficult for Jay to adjust. He's been in fights with Marlon, scratched his face even, and never got along with his classmates, forcing Anna to homeschool him. Lissa believes now more than ever that Clearwater is the best choice for Jay. Thankfully, Andrew Milling, a rich benefactor who specialized in making eco-friendly cars, offered to cover Jay's fees. Lissa asks for some alone time with Jay and has a student named Zoe escort Anna and Melody out. As soon as they leave, she gets back to Jay, announcing that she knows he's a shapeshifter. He's initially shocked, but it subsides when Lissa admits that everyone at Clearwater is also a shapeshifter.
Die Art, wie du dich bewegst.
As it turns out, Jay hasn't shapeshifted much since he started living with humans because he was scared that his ability would cause more problems. Just then, a deafening alarm goes off, and Lissa steps out immediately, escorted by Jay. It's an alarm that warns them of human presence, and true to her suspicions, Lissa finds Melody and Anna about to wander into the ranch, a ranch set aside to let the children just roam in their animal forms. Lissa has to lie that it's there so the kids can remain in touch with nature, and Anna buys it. As she's led away by another student, Lissa and Jay follow suit. The tour continues, only for Jay to come across Lou, a girl so beautiful she distracts him. This, in turn, makes him bump into the wrong person, and it becomes a pissing match. Jeffrey, a werewolf, starts to growl, and Jay lets his claws out in retaliation. Luckily, math and behavior teacher James Bridger breaks them up right on time, and Anna calls for Jay.
Jay wird lernen, mit seinen Impulsen umzugehen.
The rest of the tour goes smoothly, and after they're done, Anna asks if the school's to Jay's liking. Of course, he gives a positive response, and they head back to their vehicle together. Andrew Milling pulls into the driveway at this point and walks over to Lissa. Meanwhile, Jay says goodbye to his mom and sister, and they promise to come visiting soon. As soon as they leave, Lissa leads Jay to the terrace to meet Andrew, and they shake hands. Jay explains how he was raised raised by pumas and how his dad was scared of humans. Jay wasn't, so he came to see what the world of humans was all about. In turn, Andrew admits that he can't wait to see Jay in his true form, and with this, Lissa leads him away. They arrive at Jay's new room soon enough, and Lissa implores him to adhere to the rules listed on the wall. She promises to send a student over and asks Jay to stay put until then.
Ich schick dir gleich jemanden vorbei, der dich zum Unterricht abholt.
Mere seconds after her exit, Jay hears a voice in his head. It turns out that woodwalkers, or shapeshifters as they're popularly known, have the ability to be telepathic with each other. The squirrel takes advantage of this and telepathically tells Jay to open his window. He does. The squirrel scurries over to some laid-out clothes and asks Jay to turn around so she can shapeshift. He obliges, and within seconds, Holly emerges. She tries to go through Jay's stuff, but he quickly shuts her down. Apparently, Holly's the guide Lissa sent, and they're still talking when his supposed roommate walks in. Nimble, a jackrabbit shapeshifter, takes a whiff of Jay and instantly leaves to question Lissa for sticking him with a predator. As he runs off, Holly has Jay change into the school's sportswear in preparation for shapeshifting class. On their way to the clearing, Lou, an elk shifter, joins them, bringing up the attack on the mine and blaming it on shapeshifters.
Mit deiner Familie, oder?
Meine Pflegefamilie.
In turn, Holly warns Jay about Lou's dad, Mr. Elwood, adding that he's their teacher. Upon their arrival, Mr. Elwood explains that it's forbidden to shapeshift in the presence of humans, forbidden to film transformations, and forbidden to shapeshift without the permission of a teacher. He singles Jay out because he's a newbie and asks him to take center stage in the presence of Andrew and Lissa. While they're waiting to see Jay's true form, Brandon, who can't control himself, freaks out and turns into a bison, sending everyone laughing. Quietly, he trudges along to find a change of clothes. This event is escorted by silence as everyone waits for Jay to shapeshift. An impatient Cliff throws a rock at him and gets scolded by Mr. Elwood. Jay almost walks away, but Lissa stops him, promising to show him how to regain his connection to his inner animal. Lissa asks him to close his eyes and picture himself in the forest.
Wie?
Karak.
Seeing things as a puma, she asks for his real name, and Jay recalls that it's Karag. The more he says it, the more he feels like a puma, and soon his eyes turn golden brown, his fingernails become claws, and fur replaces the hair on his skin. He becomes a full-blown puma, much to the astonishment of Andrew Milling. With this, Lissa gives everyone else the go-ahead to shapeshift. Holly becomes a squirrel, Lissa becomes an eagle, and Mr. James and Mr. Bright-Eye both become wolves. Leroy becomes a skunk. Shadow and Wing become crows. And Jeffrey and his pack members, Cliff, Bo, and Tikaani, also turn into wolves. Lissa goes on to render an encouraging speech via telepathy, and all her students echo her words in unison. Everyone at the academy refers to Jay by his real name, Karag.
Willkommen an der Clearwater.
The next morning, clumsy Brandon makes his way to Karag's room, seeing as he's his new roommate. Sadly, his bag gets caught in the doorknob, and he falls on his butt. Just then, Holly walks in, suggesting that they all visit the canteen. Upon arrival, Karag gets offered a vegan meal, only for Dorian, a house cat shapeshifter, to tell the chef that he's a carnivore. After Karag's meal gets switched out for a beef burger, Holly interrupts him and Dorian's discussion. Brandon joins them soon, and they run into Lou, who's looking for signatures to petition the government to stop the proposed mining at the park. She lets everyone except Karag sign her petition, and Holly explains that Mr. Elwood forbade Lou from communicating with Karag. After breakfast, they all return their trays, but Jeffrey and his pack block Nimble's path. The poor jackrabbit tries to remind them that it's against the rules for predators to mess with prey, but Jeffrey doesn't care.
Regel Nummer 3. Beutegreifer sehen nie auf Beutetiere herab.
Unable to watch this, Karag comes to Nimble's rescue and is soon surrounded by Jeffrey's pack. Once again, Mr. James arrives in time to break them up and wonders what Karag would do if Jeffrey and his pack attacked him. Karag shows no remorse at this point, so James officially introduces himself and asks him to reach out before doing anything stupid. That night, Karag dreams about his real family, only to be woken up by a fully transformed Brandon. By morning, all the students are made to sprint their way to fighting class. As they arrive, Holly catches a glimpse of Andrew talking to Mr. Bright-Eye and wonders why he came out to watch them fight. Anyway, Karag joins the circle of students soon and meets Berta, a bear shapeshifter who recently found out about her ability. Bright-Eye begins the class by asking Berta to shapeshift and then pits her against Brandon. Too bad Brandon is a pacifist, so he runs away without lifting a hoof.
Ich bin prinzipiell gegen Gewalt.
Up next, he asks Karag to shapeshift, but minutes go by with nothing happening. In turn, Andrew pulls out a satchel and asks Karag to inhale. He does this and almost immediately feels its impact. In mere seconds, Karag transforms into a Puma, and it becomes him versus Berta. The bear does not resort to violence, but Karag wastes no time dishing it out, so much so that Bright-Eye has to stop him. After class, Andrew tracks Karag down and commends his potential. He then asks to be Karag's mentor, and the youngster instantly agrees. In turn, Andrew hands him the satchel from earlier, adding that it was a gift from his dad. They shake hands on their new situation, and Andrew walks away, shaking Jeffrey on his way down. Shortly, Jeffrey approaches Karag and challenges him to a fight by midnight. Later on, Karag follows Holly and Brandon into the forest, and they hang out in their treehouse.
Bis jetzt jedenfalls nicht.
There, he opens up about Jeffrey's challenge, and Holly promises to follow him. True to her word, Holly helps Karag sneak out of the dorms, with a very scared Brandon following them. They're tailed by the owl shapeshifter, but have no idea. Anyway, as they draw closer to the dueling grounds, Holly encourages Karag to give Jeffrey hell. In turn, he inhales the satchel Andrew gave him, shapeshifts, and approaches Jeffrey and his pack. It's now 4 against 1 when the initial agreement was for Karag to fight against 2. The Puma does his best as he hits Jeffrey's eye, but soon the others join in, making it difficult for Karag to maintain the upper hand. He bites and scratches as much as he can, but gets his arm almost chewed off. The situation seems so bleak that Holly considers intervening, but Brandon is too scared to do anything. Without thinking, Holly pushes Brandon down the cliff, forcing him to shapeshift into his bison form. As Brandon charges towards Jeffrey and the others, it buys Karag the distraction he needs, and he almost bites off Cliff's ear. With this, Jeffrey gives up and takes his pack back to the dorms. All the while, the owl watches from above. The next day, Karag returns to class with an injured arm, but his mates commend him for putting Jeffrey in his place.
Ja, voll.
Das war echt lustig.
Mr. James soon notices Jeffrey's black eye and the other injured students in his pack, but when he asks what happened, they lie blatantly. He also approaches Karag, but no one admits to anything. In turn, he sends them all to the infirmary, only for Andrew to show up and take Karag for a ride. As they drive, Andrew asks about Karag's dad and whether or not he taught Karag how to hunt. When the Puma gives a negative response, Andrew offers to teach him how, and Karag happily obliges. Just like that, they arrive at Clearwater once again, and Andrew lets Karag out with a fist bump. In turn, Lissa shows up to revolt against favoritism, making it clear that Andrew can't replace his dead daughter with Karag. The millionaire doesn't wait to hear the rest of Lissa's lecture, so she diverts her attention to Karag. Luckily, he doesn't get expelled for illegally fighting and just gets kitchen duty. After she leaves, Holly and Brandon approach Karag, excited about his budding relationship with Andrew.
Seid ihr jetzt befreundet? Will dich adoptieren?
At this point, Karag catches a glimpse of Lou in the distance and excuses himself. He tails her into the forest, only to come upon a meeting of the Woodwalker Council. Apparently, they're scared that some students will join in the increasing attacks against humans. Principal Lissa touches down in eagle form, and Karag is so surprised that he raises his voice. The council members overhear him, and Lissa flies off to check it out. Fortunately, Lou gets him out of there in time to avoid getting caught. As they walk back, she admits that she'd like to fight against shapeshifters attacking humans, but would prefer to do it in a peaceful way. Karag agrees and then confesses that he saw 4 wolves around the mine on the day of the blackout. He soon becomes distracted by Lou's beauty, and to snap him out of it, she pushes him into a puddle. Later on, Karag is forced to peel potatoes with Jeffrey and his pack. After kitchen duty, Andrew drops by and, as promised, takes Karag to the forest for some hunting.
Puma-Pisse.
He opens up about the satchel containing Puma urine, and Karag feels a mixture of amusement and disgust. Soon, Andrew takes off his jacket and begins to run, shapeshifting into a Puma mid-step. Karag takes off his sleeves and does the same, and the two run around the forest until they reach higher ground. From there, they see a random hunter and then a deer. With Andrew directing him, Karag makes his way down, stealthily weaving through the bushes until he gets the go-ahead to attack. After successfully taking the deer down, he and Andrew return to their human forms.
Es geht vielen Woodwalkern so, wenn sie auf die Schule kommen.
They talk about their families, and Karag discovers that Andrew lost his daughter. He tries to apologize, but Andrew doesn't let him. He just changes the topic, commending Karag for his good work. That afternoon, Lou wonders why Karag isn't eating when everyone else is, and he opens up about feeding on a deer. This doesn't sit well with Lou, so she ups and leaves. Holly then tells Karag about Lou's mom getting attacked by a mountain lion. He chases after her, but she runs into the forest and shapeshifts, putting much more space between them. To make things worse, Karag falls into the same puddle of water he did before. That night, he hears strange noises outside and soon discovers that the wolves are at it again. He opens the window in a bid to tail them, and this wakes Brandon up. In turn, Karag explains that he needs information that'll help Lou forgive him, and Brandon simply returns to sleep. In no time, Karag slips out, shapeshifts, and stays on their trail until they arrive at the border leading into town. He watches as Jeffrey threatens a security officer,
Cliff, hoch, rüber zum Stromverteiler.
while Cliff and Bo handle the circuit breaker. The guard runs off for fear of losing his life, and Karag shows his face. The wolves consider fighting him again, but for some reason, Andrew shows up. He loads the kids into a van and has Derek drive them to his house. Later on, he singles Karag out and instructs Derek to drive the others back to school. Karag wastes no time asking if Andrew is responsible for the attacks against humanity, but instead of answering, Andrew shows him a picture of his wife and daughter, Evelyn and June. He narrates how they went out to enjoy nature and never came home. Sadly, they were killed by a hunter who posted their pictures on his page like common trophies. The council has been trying to get humans to protect animals for 50 years.
Auf der Homepage eines Jagdveranstalters.
All to no avail. Andrew's still talking when Sheila, a snake shifter, shows up with their dinner. Karag can't help but notice her prosthetic leg, so Andrew explains how she was run over by a car when she was in snake form. They dig into their food, only for Andrew to ask Karag to join his team. The Puma shifter isn't certain, and he asks for time to think about it, agreeing to keep what he knows a secret. The next day, Dorian, Karag, and Brandon hang out at the tree house, and Holly joins them later. She's much too bored and proposes doing something to pass the time. Dorian instantly shapeshifts into his cat form, and Holly leads him and the boys through the forest until they arrive at a huge log of wood. She pressures Brandon to break it into kindling, and after a moment of reluctance, he hides behind a nearby bush to shapeshift. Coming out as a bison, he rams into the log the first time, but nothing comes of it. He does it the second time with much more force, and likes the feeling so much that he goes rogue in the forest.
Und genauso machst du es bei der Kampfübung.
Brandon doesn't stop running for anything and eventually runs onto the road. Unfortunately, he crashes into Karag's family's vehicle. Rushing back to school, Karag meets his family and hugs Melody and Anna. The front of their car is badly ruined, and Karag pretends not to know what happened when Melody narrates their ordeal. To make things worse, Brandon is still in bison form, and Holly helplessly chases him down. As a distraction, Karag takes Melody and his mom to check out his room, and Anna loves the room and the view that came with it. She's still admiring the place when Holly pops up as a squirrel and goes through her purse. Soon, Holly scurries away, and Lissa enters, mentioning that they have ice cream in the canteen to further distract the Ralstons. It works. After getting ice cream, Melody and her mom say goodbye to Karag, inviting him him to their hike this weekend.
Wir bleiben das Wochenende hier, dann können wir zusammen wandern gehen.
He promises to be there, but the moment his family drives off, Karag gets a call from Andrew, who informs him that they have a mission this weekend. He'd like Karag to be there, but Karag uses his hiking trip with his family as an excuse. In turn, Andrew tells him to make up his mind about which side he wants to be on. The line goes dead after this, and a frustrated Karag takes it out on Holly and Brandon. To clear his head, Karag heads into the forest, drops a small go bag by the nearest tree, and shifts into a Puma. With the wind against his face, he runs and runs until he makes it to the top of a mountain far away from school. He likes it there so much that he falls asleep, only to be woken up by Wing. Apparently, the entire school has been searching for Karag, and Lissa sent Wing and Shadow to find him.
Du bist nicht einmal mehr im Nationalpark.
Unfortunately, a drone followed Wing to the mountaintop. They hurriedly climbed their way down, noticing the hunter in control of the drone a few ways away. As they flee, the drone continues to track their heat signatures, and in no time, the hunter sets his dogs on them. It gets to a point where they take cover in a tree, but this doesn't deceive the drone for long. Angry, Wing battles the drone, sending it crashing into the tree, and Karag continues to flee as the hunter fires bullets at him. Sadly, he runs out of breath and has to take a break. Noticing this, Wing yells at him to shift into his human form, seeing as the dogs won't consider him a threat then. It takes a moment, but Karag pulls it off, leaving the dogs confused. Too bad he doesn't take 3 steps before passing out. Andrew finds Karag passed out and transports him to his home. When Karag comes to, he realizes his arm was grazed in the chase and begins to lament about how unfair the fight was.
Nur weil so gut ausgerüstet war.
Andrew takes this chance to double down on the wickedness of mankind, making it seem possible that men killed Karag's family, just like they did his. Unfortunately, this convinces Karag to join Andrew. A few hours later, Andrew gathers his allies to discuss the specifics of their next mission. Karag walks in just in time, and Andrew explains that they plan to destroy machinery worth millions of euros by unleashing a boatload of logs downhill. Jeffrey interrupts Andrew as he tries to taunt Karag, and the two get in each other's faces. Andrew quickly intervenes and pulls Karag aside to advise him. He makes it clear that a leader needs allies and then promises to help him find his family. He pulls Jeffrey aside too and makes both of them promise to work together. The moment Andrew leaves, Jeffrey goes back to being rude. Anyway, Tikani notices Karag's bandages and shows him her injury from when she was chased by a hunter. They share a short but beautiful moment until it's ruined by Karag's phone buzzing. He excuses himself and answers it, only to find that it's his mom.
Hast du gar nicht erzählt, dass du einen Mentor hast? Wer ist es denn?
Wanting to know if she can pick him up, Karag gives a flimsy excuse about having an appointment with his mentor and ends the call before Anna can ask any more questions. Things get more complicated when Holly and Brandon show up at Andrew's gate. Karag quickly approaches them and lies his butt off about what's happening. They don't believe a word he's saying, but he explains that it's much too dangerous for them to get involved. Disappointed, Holly and Brandon head out. After loading their equipment into black vans, Andrew and his allies ride towards the hills. They drive by the national park, where Karag sees Lou leading a group of children to protest against the proposed mining. He quickly sinks into his seat to avoid being seen, and soon the car comes to a halt in the valley just past the construction site. Everyone steps out, carrying one tool or the other, and Tikani gets into another conversation with Karag. She opens up about coming from a village of shapeshifters in Canada.
Kanada.
And how they donated to get her to Clearwater High School. At this point, they come across some workers felling trees and excavating an entire area of the forest. Dan springs into action, breaking into the truck of one of the workers. In turn, Andrew shares responsibilities. Karag is to ensure no animals come within range of their operation, and Jeffrey and his pack are to make sure all civilians are evacuated to avoid loss of life. With this, Andrew goes out of sight to protect his reputation and gives Derek authority to call the shots. They disperse, and Karag starts by trying to chase off some rabbits. They don't listen to him, but Tikani shows up in time to help out. She speaks in the language the rabbits understand, and within seconds, they run off.
Ziemlich krass, die Aktion, oder?
Just then, an angry Jeffrey calls out to her, claiming that they need to get back. Karag follows them up, only to notice that his family set up camp in the valley not far away. Worried, he approaches Derek to inform him about the situation, but Derek simply asks him to help Dan attach ropes to the giant logs of wood. Just then, Karag gets a group picture from his mom and gets even more worried. He calls up Andrew, who admits to knowing about his family's whereabouts. The way he sees it, no harm will come to them in the valley, but Karag is unsure. Andrew ends the call after reminding Karag that the Ralstons are not his real family, and this only worries Karag some more. He approaches Dan, banging on the window of the truck as he pleads with him to stop. Dan doesn't listen. He starts up the truck and places it in reverse, but it stops before it can unleash the logs. A quick glance at the back reveals a bison blocking the truck, escorted by a squirrel and 2 crows flying overhead. Karag's friends had come to his rescue. Dan steps on it, trying to overcome Brandon with acceleration, but Brandon remains in place even as the tires screech. They then decide to find something to wedge the tires of the truck. Down below, Jeffrey notices Wing and Shadow and orders his pack to retreat so they don't get caught.
Leute, wir müssen weg hier!
Everyone except Tikani runs away, and she makes her way up the hill to check on Karag. The entire time, Lou hides behind one of the machines. She pops out to challenge Derek, and he tries to scare her off. When this doesn't work, he gets physical, forcing Wing to intervene. Now pissed off, Derek shapeshifts into a bear, and a scared Lou begins to yell for help. She draws closer to the edge of the cliff with each passing second, and the moment Brandon hears her screaming, he abandons the truck to go save her. In turn, Holly gets on Dan's dashboard to distract him, buying Karag enough time to try to wedge the truck's tires. Lou comes mere inches away from falling, and Dan is so engrossed that he doesn't notice Brandon approaching. The bison then headbutts Derek into oblivion and shakes it off like it's nothing. While Lou thanks him, Karag wedges a log behind the truck tires. On the other hand, Holly gets inside Dan's jacket, frustrating him enough to get him out of the truck. He grabs hold of her and flings her into the distance. Luckily, Tikani shows up in time to catch Holly. Meanwhile, Karag shifts into his Puma form to face off against Dan. Too bad Dan is so scared he races off in the opposite direction.
Unerwartet, danke. Es sei denn, du frisst mich jetzt.
After this, Karag walks up to Tikani, and Andrew, who shifted into a Puma too, takes this chance to remove the log Karag wedged the truck with. Slowly, the truck pulls on the logs, and Karag challenges Andrew. The 2 Pumas scowl at each other, but Andrew beats the arrogance out of Karag. While this is going on, the truck successfully unleashes the logs, and they roll down the hill, gaining more momentum as they fall. Quickly, Lou and Brandon get out of harm's way, but the logs just keep wreaking havoc. Anna hears rumbling from above and instantly warns Donald and Marlin. Unfortunately, Melody has her headphones on and doesn't hear her mom calling. As the logs continue to roll downhill, Karag chases and runs past them. Marlin and their dog are the first to take cover, and Donald has to drag his wife to stop her from dying in an attempt to save Melody. Just as the logs are about to crush the toddler, Karag dives in her direction. The destruction is visible from any point in the valley, and Anna screams for her daughter after noticing this. Thankfully, Melody screams back. They follow her voice until the entire family is reunited, and it becomes a hug galore. Melody goes on about how a Puma saved her life, but her folks conclude that she must have hit her head. Meanwhile, Lou, Holly, and Brandon find Karag passed out a few ways from the crash. Lou is worried sick and tugs on Karag until his eyes open. They heave sighs of relief, but Karag quickly returns to his human form and joins his family. Andrew also shows up, pretending not to know what happened. If looks could kill, Karag would have killed Andrew 3 times already, but he stifles his anger. Andrew calls for a helicopter and it arrives in mere minutes. Then the Ralstons say their goodbyes and get on the helicopter to be transported to the closest hospital. Karag, on the other hand, stays behind to give Andrew a piece of his mind.
Wie du meine Pflegefamilie in Gefahr gebracht hast.
He shuts up when Andrew mentions finding his original family in Yellowstone, only for Lissa and Mr. James to interrupt their little tiff. Andrew lies about the entire thing, pinning it on Derek and mentioning Karag Karag and his friends as the heroes. With humans approaching, Lissa seeks to leave, but she makes it clear that she'll investigate further. Together, Karag and his friends make their way back to Clearwater High School, where everyone is already talking about their heroics. They're welcomed like kings and queens and earn the respect of everyone, teachers and students alike. Born as a half-human, half-Puma, Karag lived with his family in the mountains. His curiosity about the human world got the best of him, and he abandoned his family to satisfy it. Ending up with the Ralstons, Karag found yet another loving family, and they helped him enter Clearwater High School. There, he made new friends, defended the weak, and fought off bullies like Jeffrey and Andrew. Ultimately, he discovered that, biological or not, there's nothing more important than family.